I don't know why I chose to replace my microphone 15 minutes before we were supposed to start recording. That feels foolish at best.
It was great, though. And we might not have all the issues that we've been having in the past.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, don't touch it.
I'm not gonna touch it. I'm not gonna look at it.
Hey, welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, 5 weeks. 5 weeks of not being at home. Really.
Non-stop travel. I've seen only glimpses through a very few Instagram stories you've put out, which made me, of course, very homesick about Japan when you were there.
It was lovely to be there. I think it's important to mention that I posted a picture on my first morning in Tokyo of an alley behind my hotel, and Paul was able to correctly guess the street that I was on. And there was no discerning features of this alleyway. There was no obvious landmark, but you knew what direction I was facing.
Yeah.
And what shops were on the street. And it's funny you mention it because my hotel had the Lawson that you referred to built into it.
No
which
way.
Is why I picked the hotel. Yeah. So yes, it was lovely.
You went on Google Street Map or Apple Street View, whatever, and you're like, "Oh, there's a Lawson. This is for me." Is it like on Booking.com? Like all the hotels that have a Lawson built in.
There needs to be
with enough stock of sando, the tamago sando,
Pocari Sweat. I think I could ask ChatGPT like, which hotels in this district of this city in Japan have a Family Mart or a Lawson within 10 feet. All of them, I suppose.
Well, that's the thing. Oh, then there was of course, I don't have it with me in front of us. Guys, let me just put this one.
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
As you can see, we're absolutely talking about our travel. We'll get to that, guys. There was an article like 2 weeks ago about the number of Combini, so convenience stores in Japan, per region, per brand. 7-Eleven is very heavy, of course, on the Tokyo region.
Yeah.
But they were like, Family Mart was pretty big as well. I mean, there was like of course, in Tokyo, it's pretty equivalent, the big three. There's others, obviously. But in some other regions, it's completely, there were regions where 7-Eleven, for instance, which is the most famous because it has a presence abroad, that has no presence at all in some regions of Japan.
I learned that Lawson, which I think is my favorite, but I love them all, was founded in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio.
Yeah, exactly, in the U.S. It's crazy.
I did not know that. And of course, it doesn't exist anymore in the U.S. It was acquired by what is now Circle K, but it feels like such a Japanese brand, but it's
not. I mean, it is now.
Heritage and provenance is,
I think it was an expansion
Ohio.
from the U.S. brand, and then
the
U.S. brand disappeared, and exactly.
It's like 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven is exactly the same. 7-Eleven was an American firm and is now owned, the holding company is Japanese.
Believe it or not, sorry, I just opened my sparkling water. Believe it or not, the place I used to live in Shinjuku, down from my place, it was not a Lawson, had a Tesco.
Really?
It had a Tesco. Joseph Tame, whom we know and we salute.
Yeah.
Joseph Tame, the first time he came to see me, we didn't know each other at the beginning when I was living there, but we came to see me at my place. He's like, there's a Tesco. Yeah, because I hadn't been living in the UK, of course, back then. For me, it's now. So for him, it was like, my God, there's a Tesco. Of course, none of it was like a Tesco in the UK. For those who don't know, Tesco is one of the biggest branches of grocery shopping here in the UK. But it was amazing. It's gone now. I think Tesco retreated from that market. So it's not the story like Lawson. It still exists. But I had a Tesco.
Well, I did see Joseph, and he sends his best. The legendary Joseph Tame. Yep. We had
I didn't realize you saw him because I know he runs every day. I'm trying to beat him on. It's not Strava. We're using Gyroscope or something. But this year, impossible because I only run 5 times a week. He literally runs every single day.
He does run every single day.
So the other years I was able to beat him. It's a city game when you're like, how many kilometers have you run? And now I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. I give up. Joseph, sorry. You won. You won definitely by very far. Before we put the music, we're not going to do feedback from the previous episode, because we want to have Alex talking about all the trips, and he's done quite a lot. I think 7 flights.
Something ridiculous like that.
I don't even know exactly. I have some idea, but I don't even know. So I'll discover with you, the audience. We're recording today the 18th of August, 2023. It's a very rainy day, so it's a perfect day actually here in London. I don't know how it is. A little bit.
I feel it's imminent here too.
Yeah. Just one thing. So thank you, Kyle, for the previous episode because the feedback we received was really great.
That was such a great episode. What a great guy. Thank you, Kyle.
A lot of people were reassured. I think they were all on the same wavelength, like, it's kind of reassuring that you guys are telling us that we don't need to bother too much with miles and status because everybody's kind of weaning off of that addiction to some sense. Again, we'll do the proper feedback, a bit of it maybe next time. But you remember Kyle told this story about being in Vietnam and having this guy who gave him the 2 thumbs up with a cigarette, telling him this is what the food. There was no dialogue besides that. Since the release of the episode, so for 5 weeks in a row now, because we've been 5 weeks, 4 weeks, the episode has been ranking number 1 in Vietnam.
How funny is that?
I don't know, they heard about it. Maybe, Kyle, you became super famous. They want to know about you. I don't know, but thank you, Kyle, for making us being number 1 of all this time in Vietnam. And hello to our Vietnamese friends who are listening. It's very nice of you to be here. The only shout out I want to make is to Elizabeth. She's been a very long time listener. You've listened to her just when COVID was starting with the episode that we did where Alex was not present. She just had a baby.
Oh, congratulations.
A newborn. So congratulations to Elizabeth. She's already introduced him to the world of airlines by doing some airline spotting. I don't know exactly where it was. Probably somewhere around Manchester, maybe the airport. And the picture she sent me, there was a Lufthansa plane. Elizabeth, do not start with Lufthansa.
No. That's bad habits from the beginning.
I'm going to get angry emails from my German friends now. Let's play the intro music. So, no email from my German friends, please. Frank Loser, I didn't say anything bad about Lufthansa. But look, it's time to have the first view of Alex. I just said a lot of people were very happy to hear that, it was not that important to have status as smile. I think it was your first travel without your gold status on BA, because I think you flew BA to the US. That was the first bit of the trip, early July. So first time over the Atlantic without your gold status. How was that?
Yeah, it was. It was my first long haul flight. I can't remember if I've done a short haul flight without it. I don't think so, but I was quiet because I had the 3 kids and a lot of luggage. I was quietly dreading not being able to use the first wing because it's easier.
Yeah.
Normally you glide right through, you and I, with our hand luggage only, and we go through the security into the lounge. I have never been able to use that private security and get into the lounge with the kids because there's 4 of us in total and you can only bring in 1 person. So that bit I knew wasn't going to happen, but just the calmness and the quickness, frankly, of being able to check some bags in and the kids can go sit down on the sofas and somebody usually brings them something nice or fun, which is really sweet and kind. I was quietly dreading that. And when we approached the business class check-in, I hadn't realized, or I had forgotten, that quite a lot of people have access to that queue now. Lots of tiers of status and also cabin classes as well. I can't remember the specifics, but it was more than I had remembered. And the queue was long. But to BA's credit, while the queue appeared long, it actually went quite quickly because they had lots of desks open, and check-in, unless there's an anomaly, it really isn't that hard a process. I mean, even for BA, it went, I think we were in the queue for like 25 minutes, which really is not the end of the world. My kids were very patient. They know that this takes a little bit of time. The bags were checked in and they confirmed that we had the Dreamliner, which we were on, is 333. And so we had 3 seats in the middle at the very back of the first economy cabin. So we were up against the wall near the toilets, and then my eldest son was across the aisle in the aisle seat. And I picked those seats specifically because my poor middle son, Jack, is prone to air sickness. And so being right by the bathroom is handy. If I was a solo traveler, and I'll come to that on my final flight back, I wouldn't pick it at all. But also being able to recline your seat immediately and not have to worry about the person behind you, which I do worry about the person behind me.
Because you're a good person.
Well, I also have had the experience of somebody reclining into me immediately as the seatbelt sign goes off for 11 hours, and that's a little bit tiresome. But security was, they let us through the not the premium or fast track, but there's a family line or wheelchair line or buggy line where you can't go through the e-gates into security. And actually, they said, why don't you just go into fast track? Fast track was populated almost exclusively by people who I don't think had ever been to an airport before. And it's the time of year, right? It's the time of year where you do that once a year trip, or maybe once. I'm not ragging on these people. It was just like, I'm proud of my children for many, many, many reasons. One of the reasons is that they have airport security down. My sons especially, get the devices out, and you go here, and they know what to do at the end, and they don't worry if they get randomly selected for a screening. And so T5 was an absolute zoo. And I think that is a real architectural flaw, design flaw of that terminal. There is a huge pinch point when you come through security. There is almost no space between the end of the conveyor belt where your bag comes out. The screening belts. And then there's a balcony that looks down on the rest of the terminal. There may be 10 feet. And people are trying to put themselves back together. They're waiting for family and friends or colleagues. You had herds of BA employees coming, waiting for shift changes. And it just feels cramped and claustrophobic and inefficient. And I'm sure that when they originally designed it, the machinery for the security process perhaps was more compact, or there was less of it, or whatever it might have been. But it feels like
maybe less people.
Huge issue, And it again, to be fair, it was coming into the busiest weeks of the year for Heathrow, and so it's not always like that.
On that, I read something. It was July, so when you left, was the 5th highest ever month for passengers at Heathrow. Two things. First, it tells you that basically COVID is over. I mean, we know it, but I mean, the only 4 that beat it were July and August 2018 and July and August 2019. So this is the 5th. So basically, it was heaving. I mean, it's a good sign for travel, but probably T5 was not really made for that amount of people. There's always been the plan of expanding it to, another bit on the other side of the M25. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I wish that would progress purely from a traveling perspective. So that whole terminal, you're right. It doesn't feel like it was designed to have that many people, because even the main thoroughfare through the terminal is swarmed. Just absolutely swarming with people. So it takes some time to get through people. But again, like, my kids are well versed in it. They're reasonably patient, and we always end up at the Wagamama there, because it's one of the few things where I know that everybody will have something that they can eat, and they actually have that. It's reasonably efficient. Yeah. The kids like it, and
I like it. It's
predictable, and it's one of the few airport eateries that have the process down. They know they have a limited menu. They have a fast track menu. The process to pay is done over QR code. So the whole thing feels streamlined.
They have a fast track menu? What does that mean?
Yeah, a few airport eateries have this, where if you only have a short period of time, order these things.
Oh,
because we can get them out quicker. Then, I think a lot of the Jamie Oliver, or was it the Gordon Ramsay ones? Anyway, either one of the chef restaurants had that as well. But it works well, and we were out quickly. And then it sort of started to unravel a little bit, and I was bracing for it. I kind of knew it would happen, but the last time that I want to delay is when I have the kids in tow and we have an 11-hour flight ahead of us. But I checked while we were sitting down. I just look at the flight status, see if the gate's been announced. And of course, Flighty was the one that told me there's a 30-minute delay. Okay, well, 30 minutes, that's not the end of the world. Let's go and find our gate. And the gate is announced, and I'm like, a gate for a Dreamliner? Oh,
Yeah.
no. Bus gate. Okay, well, you know what? We'll be on the first bus because there's the kids and we'll be blah, blah, blah. So we go down, and it's that weird, I don't know if you've ever been there, but you go downstairs from the main concourse, and there's a few A gates. You're at tarmac level, and they do a really terrible job of saying where the gates are, because I think there's like and I'm making these up, like 8 through 15 are downstairs. And you get downstairs, and then there's no signage telling you which gate is which. And it's a long corridor, so you're like, where do I go? Which direction do I go? Ours was all the way down at the end, but the amount of people that came to our gate and were like, I'm ready to check in to Zurich. I go, no, that's down all the way at the other end. You're not telling me. So eventually they do the pre-boarding call, and you're basically put into a pen, of course, because then you're waiting for the bus to come, and they pull up alongside. There's a 30-minute delay and then an hour delay, and then it's creeping and creeping and creeping. And I will give BA credit, and I will always give BA credit when it's due. The chat managing the check-in process or the boarding process did a phenomenal job of keeping us all updated. Whether he had news or not to share, he always made an announcement saying, here's what I know, and here's what's going to happen next. And was true to his word. He said, in 10 minutes, I'm going to call the airplane, and I'm going to find out what the status is. 10 minutes later, an announcement. They're still working on it. It was the fault was air conditioning, and it was very, very hot. So they couldn't board us. There's no way that they can board us. And at that point, you can't get mad at it. It's a mechanical problem, and it will take as long as it takes to get resolved. And all that you hope for is what this chap was doing, which is frequent updates, whether you've got something to tell me or not. And they did a really good job with that. They did pre-boarding, but then they stopped. So there was just a pen of us with wheelchair folks, and then people with young children, and that was it. They stopped the rest of the boarding process. Eventually, about 90 minutes after we were due to actually take off, they started the buses coming, and we all boarded. In that period, there was a lady in a wheelchair who was relentlessly pestering this guy, saying, this is bad. Why can't you guys get a flight out on time? This is ridiculous. I've had a look in every San Jose, we were flying to San Jose, California. Every San Jose flight for the last week has been delayed, which was false. Why can't you do this? What's going on? What are they doing out there? They're probably not doing anything, are they? They're just jerking around, right? And it was like,
God.
And it made a sort of slightly tense situation even more tense, because what is it? This guy's like, I'm doing my best, and he really was. So I thought, okay, well, jerks will be jerks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We all get on the bus. We go out to the airplane. The kids think it's cool because you're walking up, and there's these huge airplanes all around you, and there's planes taking off on the runways, and it's a long bus ride. But for me, I'm like, look at all the things. This is great. I don't care. Come up to the Dreamliner, step on board, take our seats. Kids immediately pull out their devices, and they're happy. They don't really mind.
Good.
Everybody boards. We don't do anything. We don't do anything. We don't do anything. We don't do anything. And it turns out that this woman is sat across the aisle from us.
Oh, come on. You'll have a live commentary of what's happening then.
100%. That's exactly what happened. She went off, and she was any person, any member of the cabin crew that came by, she grabbed them and said, "This is ridiculous. What is the pilot doing up there? Is he up there having a wank?" Like, I'm not making this up. That's exactly what she said. Like, this is ridiculous. What are they doing? And then she said, the San Jose flight has never left on time for the last 6 months. I'm like, well, last time I heard this, it was a week. And again, that's patently untrue. And when there was not a cabin crew member present, she was complaining out loud to anybody that would listen. Like no one was listening, but she was just talking and it started to get very tense because she wouldn't shut up and she was getting angrier and angrier. And they would have 2 flight attendants spending, and this was while they were trying to secure the cabin. And the flight deck crew were trying to get the flight out before they ran out of hours. And it was, a piece of equipment had to be replaced, a small little thing, but then the software update had to be run and the plane had to be powered down and then repowered back up to allow that software to, just like a freaking computer, right?
A router. I was about to say.
You run your update and you got to restart to finalize everything. That's what has to happen with the airplane. You and I, any reasonable person would have gone, that sounds fine. That sounds familiar. This woman would not let it go. They eventually had 2 cabin crew, including the in-flight manager, playing good cop and bad cop. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I'm so sorry. And then they threatened her with removal.
Good. Come on, at some point.
If we have to offload your cranky ass, we are going to be out of hours because we're going to have to get your bags off the airplane. And that's an hour. Easily. That's an hour. And eventually, and at this point, by the time we actually push back, we're delayed. It's 3 hours, 3-hour delay.
Had she quieted down by that moment?
No. And everybody was looking at each other, rolling their eyes within a few rows of us. We eventually get in the air. I was really proud of my kids. They were so patient. It's frustrating for them and for me and for everybody else on board when you have a 3-hour creeping delay and you have an 11-hour flight daytime flight ahead of you. Not to mention having the whole thing ratcheted up by this woman. The rest of the flight is reasonably uneventful. And she talks and talks and talks and talks and talks to her long-suffering partner next to her, but really to anybody that will listen.
Oh, God.
And there's quiet. She passes out. And the service is fine. It's a Dreamliner, so it's got the old, less dense IFE. The food was okay. The flight just goes on and on and on and on and on. About 90 minutes before landing, she starts up again. Oh,
really?
She starts up again, and they do the same tactic of good cop, bad cop. And remember, it's important to reiterate at this point, she is a wheelchair customer, and there's protocol to get them on and off the airplane. We land at San Jose. If you know San Jose Airport, it's the runway is right next to the terminal. So it is, without exaggeration, a 90-second taxi, and your wheels hit the ground.
I discovered this airport thanks to you when we met in California.
It's fantastic. I'm a big fan of that airport. We land, and as soon as we turn off the runway, she takes her seatbelt off and stands up, and she's like, I'm not waiting around. To her husband, like, let's go, let's get our bags. I'm not going to, and her husband's like, what are you doing? Sit down. And she's like, what are you talking about? You never follow the rules. And all of us are looking at each other like, this is like some kind of prank TV show. Like, where are the cameras?
I was about to say, where's the camera?
And their cabin crew like sprint over. They're like, we're still taxiing. We're moving. What are you doing? She's like, I'm sick of waiting around. And she's starting grabbing. And they eventually say, you need to sit down or we're going to have to call the police to come onto the airplane. And that will delay everybody. And everybody's sort of looking at her going, if you make us wait. Because generally the way that works, when the cops or paramedics or anybody needs to come on board, everybody's got to stay seated until they remove the person. And then we're all looking at her like, don't you freaking dare. Apparently she was placated. Never saw her again. Of course, immigration, a lot of international service to San Jose has been reduced since COVID. No one in immigration. So we go through very quickly. The airplane is literally on the other side of the wall from the baggage claim. So they pass the bags through and it's there.
I love it.
Get home. No problem. I have never witnessed behavior like that on an airplane before in my life, and I've been on planes with people who were drunk out of their minds with mental problems and and other ailments. I have never, ever witnessed behavior like that in my life. And I thought the cabin crew handled it in an exemplary fashion.
Yeah.
At the busiest point of the flight.
I've never seen that either. Like you, I've seen like drunk and some stupid behaviors, but not that level. I mean, wow. There was like in the latest 3 newsletters of IATA, it was all about disruptive passengers. That there has been a rise. So the numbers are still very small because, of course, I mean, besides the story you just told us, the once per week you seem to be reading something on some newspaper telling us that something happened. The numbers are still small, but there's still a rise. So I don't know.
And you hear often about these, like you said, these people, with psychological issues, and you have a great deal of sympathy and I guess patience and understanding for that. For the drunk stuff, you kind of roll your eyes.
Yeah.
This was something else. This was a deeply, deeply unhappy human being. Yeah. A narcissist, maybe, I don't know, but
probably
to have that sense of entitlement to disrupt people doing their jobs to that level was just an infuriating thing to watch. I guess I'm saying there was nothing you could attribute it to where you could go, okay, I kind of understand. It's still frustrating, but there's none of that. And I think everybody in the cabin felt the same.
Plus at some point, let go. I mean, you're in the air.
Yeah.
So, there was a delay, blah, blah, blah. No matter what, you're now flying. What are you going to do? You're going to keep complaining for the rest of the flight?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. At some point, yeah.
I was expecting her to appear in the baggage hall and get just set upon by an angry mob of her fellow passengers. But like you said, we were there. We could all let it go. She will not have let it gone. Yeah. But we all let it go. We all let it go. And it was it was a very strange start to that to the trip. But all's well that ends well. The kids, I was like I keep saying, I was proud of them because it's not a small feat to do that, and they were great. So, and I think BA handled it well. My expectations were set for the product, so it wasn't there was nothing good or bad beyond what I already knew it would be. The crew really looked after the kids, especially my son routinely get from 2 hours out of he will, forgive the kind of grossness of he will be sick nonstop for 2 hours. And to the point where a few years ago, they were prepping for a diversion once on the same route.
I think you told me. Yeah, was it on a podcast at all?
It was on a podcast. Yeah, they were prepped because it was like they're like, this is not. We've spoken to the medical team on the ground. They all use this third-party service that they can connect to on the ground, and they said, look, if he doesn't stop, then you need to divert. But they looked after him. They were all very concerned, and it wasn't just one person. It was multiple crew who came by like, what does he need? What we can get him bedding from business to make him more comfortable. And like, just keep bringing sick bags until I tell you to stop. That's all we need. But your genuine kindness is really appreciated. So I know I talk crap about BA all the time, and I will continue in this podcast, but I appreciate them looking after my son like that. So it was, yeah.
I think I've heard, no, I didn't take a lot of notes because it's mostly Alex speaking today, but I've heard that BA agreed to a better pay for all the staff, so excluding pilots, because there are 2 different unions and stuff, right? And also, I think they also went back to better terms compared to the harsher terms that were during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Where they also, was there something about rehiring some of the people that were cut loose during the pandemic as well? So maybe they're trying as well to kind of rebuild that culture that we've been talking about that is missing some of the bits of the people with the memory of that culture that have left. I don't know. I'm just, it's, we always said here, let's put COVID aside in that dark period for our travel. We always said that BA had hit and miss sometimes in the delivery of that culture on board, but a lot of people seem to say it's slightly hinching towards being better. So I'm not saying it's only the fact that BA has been giving pay rises and better terms and so on, but they are probably aware of it.
They can't not be aware of it. I mean, with the volume of criticism that has come through over the last several years. And I think that they can look back at a legacy of leadership that let them down. And they've basically said that. I mean, the new CEO did that interview. Was it in the Times or the FT recently? It was a long, long interview. He basically said that. He basically said we didn't have good leadership. And he's not saying we didn't have good leadership because until I came along. He's not saying that at all. But it was an interesting acknowledgement of wilderness years for BA and the damage of which is deep and will take years and hundreds of millions of pounds to rectify. But I think that they're starting to see some shoots emerge from their work, which is great.
I think now that I think I remember, it was, the fire and rehire thing they did during COVID with worse terms. I think they agreed for those people that had been rehired with worse terms to go back to early 2020 terms. That's what happened, I think. I'm pretty sure. Besides, on top, a pay rise. I mean, this is also simply inflation, so you have to kind of, some point, give some pay rise to keep up. But I'm not saying this is only the reason, but it shows maybe a willingness to be less, confrontational with the staff.
Yeah, it's absolutely going to help. Just with morale, and morale will absolutely affect, customer service and service delivery. So you can start to see that. I will continue flying on BA because A, I have to, and B, I'm sort of morbidly curious to see how this transformation project goes. And it is a formal transformation project. They've acknowledged that as well. So we'll be interested to see how the rest of that goes. But yeah, that was the first of 7 flights.
Before you go to the next one, maybe telling us a little bit how was California, since you were on BA, whilst you were away, you probably, because I'm sure you were also reading some of the news, maybe not, because you also had a good time. Finnair joined Avios.
Yeah.
Just announced, so now you will have, of course, BA, Iberia, Aer Lingus, Qatar, and Finnair. I don't know how they will, Qatar, you could just link your card with BA. Others, you have to go on avios.com to kind of try to find a way. I think that's Aer Lingus. Iberia, I have never tried, so I don't know how you make that work. But for Finnair Plus, I think is the name of the program, will be joining Avios as well. So to your point of you wanted to keep flying BA, it's also becoming interesting to have one pool of points that you can move across now 5 airlines.
Yeah.
That's something that it can be, because I have some points locked at, I don't know, JetBlue, whatever. I don't know what to do with them, unless I actually fly JetBlue, which, by the way, I might not fly I'm going to New York in October, November. I might not fly them, not a price. I'll go about that when we reach that point. There's a reason for that. It will be an interesting airline if I try to forget what I want. But however, here, it certainly makes, it's interesting to have one pool of points that you can share across different airlines.
Yeah.
And also, whilst you were away, Iberia is joining the joint venture of BA and Qatar Airways, so actually joining the joint venture, which means that they cooperate on schedule, on pricing. They have a share of revenue as well, which now creates this so a tighter integration. I think now you'll be able to go from, what did they say on the press release? I can't remember, more than 200 destinations from Madrid. So that's interesting. It means I think it must be. I mean, we talked about it last time with Kyle about Delta, but I think this must be the biggest joint venture for airline in the world. Yeah, probably. I don't know how you would calculate if it's a revenue or destinations or fleet, but it must be one of the biggest in at least one of these conditions that I just mentioned. I'm wondering, somehow, is it not BA getting back at Emirates 10 years ago where they grabbed Qantas and they'll say, you know what, we're going to grab, we were aligning with Qatar. I'm not saying that BA is driving the conversation here. I'm just saying it's funny
it's interesting. How the world... And I think what I keep thinking about is, are the competition authorities kind of raising their eyebrows at some of these alliances? I mean, in the US, they've pulled apart the Northeastern Alliance with...
Yeah, I agree. However, here we're talking international. So as in, Qatar will not have such a bigger foothold in Madrid, for instance, in the case of the GV. So it's harder. In the US, it's because it's a single market.
Yeah.
If it were only maybe within the EU, there might be something. But here we're talking about airlines that are.
True.
And honestly, let's be honest, the Spanish authorities could already have said something because basically Madrid is owned by IAG completely. There's almost no one else now doing it. You also got Air Europa, whatever. So anyway, so and on Finnair, and then I'll let you go back on to your story on Finnair. Just I read that the other day, and So I was happy that they joined Avios. However, they did a new thing now. You can only bring in business class on Finnair 12 kilos in the cabin, even with a long flight. 12 is really low. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm taking 20 because of so many toiletries or whatever.
Right.
But 12, it's and there's no like exception for One World, Emerald, whatever, like all the other airlines do. So it's not a great deal to have only 12. I think they started at 10 and there was so much uproar they went to 12. But I'm like, with my cameras, I'm pretty quickly getting to 10. So then I have no room for nothing else. It's not a big deal. I'm just saying I hope it's not a trend.
Oh, it's definitely a trend.
Oh, God.
It's definitely a trend. 100%.
I know.
100%.
I wanted you to reassure me. But
no, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but it is definitely a trend.
Oh, and the big one, sorry, and then we'll go back to your story. The big one, obviously, is BA is moving to a revenue-based frequent flyer program.
Enhancement.
Yeah, I mean, that was a joke, that email. Come on.
It was a joke. It was a joke. It was spun as, this is great news, everybody. Yeah. And anybody who knows anything about frequent flyer accrual knows it's not a good thing.
Unless you're a big spender, you're basically worse off.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's fine. We knew it was coming. We've been discussing it a lot in the past. Other airlines have done it. We discussed it in the last episode about the situation in the US. It's a devaluation of sorts, by the way, as well. It's okay. We knew it was coming. It was expected. Do not spin it just tell us the facts. Yeah. Just... I mean, for guys, because of course, if you're not based in the UK or you're not member of BA's program, you might have not received that email. Just look it up. It's almost like, putting a knife into you and then kind of twisting it because oh, look, it's great. More opportunities to get more Avios and making a program even better for you. I'm like, come on, just state the fact. Don't go around. It would have been okay. I mean, the uproar would have happened anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
And we knew it was coming. It was not a surprise. So, by the way, currently, I think, so that starts in October. So until October, every booking you do, even if they're for post-October, will still be judged by the current distance system and class, etc. So fare class. However, even after the 13th of October, if you book through BA Holidays, it will still be the old program, and probably that will have to be tested. If you book by, let's say, by Qatar Airways, you go on Qatar Airways, you book a flight for BA, no matter the integration, because BA's IT systems are so bad, they won't be able to know what exactly you've paid for, so they would still apply the old. So not that I will start doing that because it starts being very complicated, but there will be ways for those who love their miles to maybe game the system a little bit, at least at the start until BA reacts, until they actually get to their IT act together, which is not tomorrow.
No.
Anyway, how was California?
Yeah, it was good. Lovely weather, of course, and actually hot, very hot at points.
You chose the best moment to leave because the UK was... I've been living here 12 years, and it was the worst summer, if I can even call that a summer, I've had in the past 12 years. It's not that it was raining, it was like 18, 19 Celsius. It was like, what is going... It's now better. Now that you've come back, it's better.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing some California weather back.
At least I could.
But you really chose a perfect time.
That's what everybody said. My family were all messaging me saying, this is just awful, and...
Yeah.
Enjoy what you've got. Yeah, like unprecedentedly bad, as you said. So I was happy to escape that, and I enjoyed my time in California. But I spent not quite a lot of time, but every now and then tinkering with this reasonably complicated trip that Megan and I had ahead of us. with lots of different flights and lots of different airlines and lots of moving parts, and pretty ambitious actually, at least for the two of us. And not to mention taking her to a country that she'd never been to before and a continent she'd never been to before. So I was a little cognizant of that, at least, going, this is trying to set expectations of it's going to feel very different. But we chose Japan not just because I haven't been there in 5 years and I was jonesing, but Zipair, who we have mentioned on the podcast before, which is a low-cost long-haul arm of JAL, reasonably new, had started flying to San Francisco just the month before. I think their inaugural was in the middle of June. And they'd also, they fly to San Jose, where I flew into, and they also fly to LA, and I think San Diego as well, actually. And they're all, up until very recently, actually.
I don't think San Diego, I think it's in the US is, well, I could be wrong. I think it's LA, San Jose, San Francisco, and Honolulu.
Honolulu. I think maybe they announced San Diego. I can't remember. Maybe, yeah. Or they were going
the latest one they've just done is Manila, because they also fly to Singapore, to Bangkok, Incheon probably, and Manila was just introduced like maybe a few weeks ago. It started a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
I saw the picture with the welcome with the water thing. It was cool. Yeah.
It seems to be going very well for them because of this expansion, and they're actually getting new airplanes now on lease, as opposed to having JAL hand-me-downs, which is what they were.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're good hand-me-downs, though.
They're good hand-me-downs. They were older 787s, and ours was 10 years old. But what was most compelling about it, not just Japan, was that it was insanely cheap. Yeah. Just incredible.
Well, when you told me the price, and you will tell it to the audience now, when you told me the price, I'm like, yeah, I would have done the same. I would have flown. I mean, I was always interested. I've never flown, of course, Zipair. They had just started just before the pandemic. Yeah. Literally, like maybe a year before, they had like one single aircraft. It was very early on. It was a move, by the way, by JAL to try to react to AirAsia X, which was expanding very rapidly, including to Japan, and they wanted to offer their own version of a long-haul low cost. Of course, then the pandemic happened. During the pandemic, I think they did some cargo to survive, even though, I mean, I'm sure they had like some injection from JAL. And now they are in what they were supposed to be, they're expanding again. But when you told me the price, I was like, God damn.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's contextualize this for a second, because right now, for us to fly from London to Japan, you're paying well over £1,000.
From where, you say?
From London.
Yeah.
Easily. And of course, there's lots of reasons for that. Less capacity, much longer flights because you're not able to fly over Russia. So there's fuel, blah, 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 blah. It's like prohibitively expensive. Even if you go via the Middle East, you will not pay less than £1,000.
I'm pushing back my trip because it's still, for me, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. I'm just going to do a quick conversion here because I said pounds, and I want to put it in the same thing. But it was the flight, the one-way flight from San Francisco to Narita with £219. Wow. All taxes and fees.
How much it was in dollars?
$279.
That's insane.
Now let's. That's amazing. And why wouldn't you?
I wanna know why. I mean, why? How was the experience for that? Yeah. However, of course, I would have done the same. Yeah. This is kind of pricing super. I remember going. We're talking here 1997. I flew from Geneva to New York on an airline that doesn't exist anymore. This was called SWA, Swiss World Airways, or something like that. They didn't last. I paid $200. For return. Yeah. Of course I would do it. It was not about going like in a nice seat or whatever. No. Of course 98 I was not, I didn't have any money. But what? Of course you would do it. Yeah. I would have done the same. I'm expecting, I want to know how it was inside.
Well, yeah.
How it was. You got to tell us, because there's just a nostalgia trip. There's JAL, I remember seeing it somewhere. There was an ad probably in the early 90s or maybe the 80s. And the tagline of the ad is, we don't economize in economy. Mm-hmm. So are they economizing in
yes.
economy? That's my question.
Absolutely. They are a long cost low-cost long-haul airline. So everything is a la carte. You are paying simply for the right to get onto the airplane. If you want anything else, you're going to pay for it.
Okay.
But the expectation was set very early on, and their website is very basic in its layout and its function. And when you book, you have the opportunity to add on packages where you would get the ability to book a seat and a meal and various other things like checked baggage, increased weight of cabin baggage.
Oh.
So let's start with that one. So you get 7 kilos carry-on allowance.
Okay.
Just with that $279 ticket. That's it.
So no choice of seat, whatever.
No choice of seat, no nothing at all. And so we ended up just bumping up to the 12 kilograms for, I can't remember how much it was, but it was reasonable so that we were hand luggage only and all of that. And that was the only add-on that we got. I think maybe I paid to book. In fact, I did pay to book the seats, but that was it. I didn't want anything else. I didn't need a checked bag. I didn't need a meal or anything like that. We knew that.
Yeah, but the seat, I would have done the same.
Yeah, because I didn't know how busy it was going to be.
Yeah,
and it all felt even with those add-ons, it still came out. But what's interesting actually is that aggressive pricing has dragged down the other carriers. So ANA, JAL, United, I think are the other three that fly to Tokyo, whether it be Haneda or Narita, from San Francisco. And even those were sort of $580, which is good, which a round trip, which is, no, pardon me, not round trip, wrong way, which is still pretty good because it's a full service fare. They use the international terminal at San Francisco. Check-in was interesting because it was very, it was obviously a third-party handler. It wasn't JAL people, and it wasn't their own. It was one of the many third-party, probably Hallmark, that they used at San Francisco. And it was this perfect blend of Japanese process, but American / California like relaxed attitude towards it, like not sort of by the rules 100% no matter what, as you often can get in Japan.
Yeah.
And so we approached we were at maybe 4th or 5th in line for checking because we'd gotten there quite early. And we had both of our kind of, wheelie bags, our carry-on bags, and checked in and gave us the ticket or the boarding pass. And she said, "Do you have any check-in luggage?" "No." "Okay, just make sure it's under 12 kilos. That's fine. Bye." There was no weighing. There was no measuring. I'm very sure that they were more than 12 kilos. But it wasn't and I think because she said the flight is light, you have the seat between you is empty. And I think knowing that,
there were less stringent of
scrutiny over what we were bringing. They don't participate in TSA pre yet. And that's I've forgotten it's on an airline by airline basis. So you just went through regular security, which was a breeze because San Francisco has also adopted the I can't remember the name of the technology that they have now at Gatwick and London City, where you don't need to remove particle. Somebody will tell us.
Yeah.
The one time where you don't need to take anything out of your bag anyway. So you can just pass it through. And it might as well be TSA pre. You don't have to take anything out.
Yeah.
I think the thresholds for things on your person are reduced. So you need to take your watch off and your belt and your shoes and all that stuff. But nothing comes out of your bag. Straight through. The lounge situation at San Francisco International A terminals is totally screwy at the moment because some are closed, some are only open for certain hours. What used to be a priority pass lounge is only a priority pass lounge for a certain amount of time during the day, and some of them you can only stay in there for 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
They were you would go in. Apparently, they weren't accepting us during the time that we wanted to go. And I went online and I was reading like, what the hell's going on about San Francisco Airport? And apparently when you entered, they would give you a piece of paper that would have the time you entered print on, and they would then go around the lounge and look at people's pieces of paper and saying, out.
Come.
This was a third-party lounge. And eventually I looked around and I saw that we could get into the China Airlines Dynasty Lounge, way up in the bowels on the 4th floor, near where the old Virgin Lounge was. And they were incredibly friendly. They said, look, you can go in. We have this sort of VIP area, which is basically just a smaller room with a door. You're welcome to go in there until 4:00, and then I'm going to have to ask you to leave because my China Airlines flight,
exactly.
Come. Like, this is great.
That's cool.
And our flight was at 5 anyway, so we would have been gone by then. It was a comfortable lounge. They had some Asian-y food, so some quote-unquote fried rice and all that. It was perfectly well appointed, very comfortable for what we needed at the moment. Able to spend about an hour there before going down to boarding. And I had forgotten how Japanese airlines board. We're down the downstairs gates at San Francisco International on the A pier, and there's no priority boarding because there's no business class. There is business class seats. There are business class seats.
I was about to ask you that because the business class seat, at least on the pictures, look like pretty cool. I mean, maybe not the latest.
They look
cool,
like
very nice business class seats.
The herringbone.
Yeah.
Maybe even have a door leather seats, but there's no screen. There's no screen on any seat, and you get nothing else other than the seat.
That would work for me.
It would work for me too. It was a little bit.
It's not $300.
It was $1,000, I think.
Yeah, it's way more expensive.
Yeah, but no meal, no priority boarding, no lounge, no extra baggage allowance, nothing. It's quite an ingenious model. I'll be very interested to see if they stick with it because we've seen that tiered business class price on, was it Finnair?
That unbundling of business class. I'm wondering because since the current Dreamliners they have came from JAL, of course they had a business class. Now that they will start receiving the new ones that are completely, direct orders.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how they will be fitting them inside. I don't know.
The interior of just to go back to the boarding thing for a second, it was basically like, a laminated sign that was like rows X to X, and everybody just went when they were supposed to go. And then another laminated sign, rows X to X, rows X, and everybody, it was very calm and very organized. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. This is great, which is kind of funny because the flight back was not that, but I'll get to that later maybe. And the interior of the airplane was interesting because it had obviously been refitted. These were all new seats because none of them had screens, like I said. Very austere, but clean, if you know it, like very Japanese minimalist. There was no kind of embellishment, nothing like that. There was a black carpet that was strangely worn down compared to the rest of the cabin. Everything was monochromatic. So the seat backs were sort of this off-white. The seats themselves were black, and it was the same in the rest of the cabin. The cabin crew, black and white uniforms. The seats were more than comfortable. We didn't end up having anybody in the middle. It was an interestingly timed flight because it was a perpetual dusk. So we take off about 5:30 in the evening and land at Narita at about, I think, 9:45 p.m. So you're perpetually in dusk, which is lovely because the light is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Do
they close the blinds?
No.
So you're free to do.
They were not locked on. Actually, on any of my Dreamliner flights, they weren't locked. So you could look out and see nothing really, the Pacific for 10 hours. But it was the even though,
you know what? Sorry to interrupt. All your description about how it looks like, I think, if I'm not mistaken, before they announced the name, and we might have talked on this podcast, maybe 2018 or something, I tend to remember they were calling it a new basic airline themselves. We are a new basic airline. So really, and basic not in a derogatory or negative way. Like I think they really went to the essence of, like you said, the seats were probably gray or something. Yeah, exactly. Like the absence of colors is basic. It's like a Muji in an airline.
It's exactly what it felt like. It was basic but not cheap, and it didn't feel. And it was basic, but not casual either. There was still the formality that you would expect.
It's not Wamos.
No, exactly. It had that level of service, almost to the point of theater that you, or not theater, but sort of ceremony, if you will, that you have in basically in a Combini as well, where there's protocol almost.
Yeah.
And everything was done through the Wi-Fi, so you could watch. They had, like, without exaggeration, six movies, and maybe 1 or 2 TV shows, and that's about it. There was very little content on there, and
bring your own.
Which I knew I was going to come loaded with, with content and devices. But you ordered if you wanted a food items, and they had everything. The menu was on the Wi-Fi, and you could go on and you pay and all of that stuff. Interestingly, free internet for everybody.
Oh, nice!
And it was good and fast and easy, so you could stream if you wanted to. It was that good. It was like, how not as good as JetBlue. JetBlue is unbelievable, but it was reliable. It was easy. Everybody could use it. Multiple devices. No login required. But the way that the service worked was there was no cart run. There was no drink run. There was no nothing. If you had pre-ordered a meal, they went very slowly through the cabin and delivered the meals that were ordered with a bottle of water to those that had pre-ordered. The in-flight shopping was turned off. You could browse everything, see the prices, but you couldn't actually transact. It said
because they were busy.
Because they were busy, and we were wondering, like, is it going to be off for the whole flight? So when they eventually got to our row delivering these pre-ordered meals, we said, "Can you help us understand what the process is?" And he said, "As soon as we're done, we'll turn it on." And it was excruciatingly slow. I think it was a newish system. They were still getting to grips with it. There was limited oven space. I later found out. So they would cook a batch, deliver it, wait for the next batch and then deliver it, and all the way down. So
how full was the flight, would you say? Ish.
In economy, 50%.
Oh, so it's not that.
If that.
I mean, wow. I mean, it's good for you because you had some room to play with. Yeah. Well, how was I know I'm disrupting your flow.
Not at all.
How was the comfort of the seat?
The seats were more than comfortable. Nothing spectacular, but not noticeable.
Would you have done? Sorry, I'm going to turn the question differently. Would you have done? How comfortable would you have been? Same flight, full flight, so not like a second row to kind of expand your legs or whatever, with Megan next to you. How comfortable would you have been? Would you have been okay?
Well, we had that. We had that on the way back.
Okay,
and the night
tell us,
flight.
So I'm just.
And they were more than comfortable. So I think it's a good setup. They have the tablet holders built into the seat in front of you because they know that's exactly what's going to happen. We ended up ordering after they turned it on. I had a Japanese beer and a ramen.
Of course.
Pot, cup noodle.
How was it?
Excellent. Of course it was excellent. And it was all comes in this cute little holder with your chopsticks and everything. And then Megan had a different cup noodle and all of that. So it was, and that was kind of, we brought snacks and so it was more than you needed. And the sun eventually set or rose or set again because you miss out an entire day because of the dateline. And we landed at Narita bang on time, actually. And it was hilarious, actually, because you land, and you know this better than anyone, you taxi for like days and days and days and days. But as soon as we touched down, all the windows fogged up. So you had absolutely no idea where you were.
Oh, because it's in the summer, so it was super hot.
And humid, and you're
so you were not able to see the last farms remaining on the taxiways. The people, the whole guys. We did Narita, and Narita is going to be the title of this episode because I want to hear now what Alex experienced at Narita. But we did it on episode 50, where I told the story because it was the main airport I was using. Haneda was nowhere It was like the international Haneda was a shed back then. So now it's not proper airport. It was only domestic, basically, Haneda. It's still an airport I love, and they are. It's a long battle that has been since the creation of that airport. There are still very few, however, compared to even when we recorded episode 50, holdouts of people that never agreed to sell their lands, that are still basically farming in the middle of the airport, which is a great sight if you know how to look for them when you're taxiing. And you can also see the external walls of Narita, because they had previously the army basically was securing the airport. It's a crazy story. Anyway, so the taxi takes forever.
It does, and we eventually emerged.
It eases you into Japan.
Yeah, exactly. And I knew as soon as that happened, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be hot. And you get off the airplane. It was very, very quiet in the terminal because it was 10 o'clock at night. We were in a part of the terminal that was really only for domestic stuff or regional stuff, and most of those flights had either arrived or were arriving much later. So we were the only flight in immigration, so we were through very quickly.
Oh, good.
The one non-aviation thing I noticed, and I had sort of forgotten, but was abruptly reminded by, we had to go through separately. I approached the immigration officer, who spoke not a lick of English, not a single word of English, and was asking me to do things, and we had to sort of mime to each other. But then you had the added barrier of him wearing a mask, so you couldn't. And I have terrible hearing, so
couldn't tell.
I couldn't. I'm really sorry. I felt like an idiot, but eventually we got there. I was like, oh yeah, I gotta brush up on my Japanese.
Do you remember which terminal? Because he was not the 3 is the terminal, the low cost. It was not that 1 or 2. 1.
It was 1.
I'm wondering, were there now? They're not e-gates, but basically the last time I went, I was 2019. I was in the summer and then again in December 2019. They were installing, and both times I was in Narita, I think. They were installing some types of machines. I wouldn't call them e-gates. Some types of machine that will help you basically fill out that little form that you have to do. It was really the beginning of it, so basically made no sense because I was at the machine and there was a staff next to each machine. So I'm like, why would you bother?
No.
So how was that?
They didn't have those. They have them for Japanese citizens and residents. But interestingly, when we left, they have them for outbound immigration.
Okay, good.
And I if we get to that today,
No, we have an hour, so we will get there because that helped. The only reason I'm saying that is that, of course, if you have to use a touchscreen, then of course a lot of the barrier of the language is helped.
Yes.
Because suddenly that's what I need to do.
We didn't have that that option, and it was fine, and it went through, and I was like, it was a reminder that this is Japan.
How was Narita? Was it easy? So you were, because I realized which location you were, so Akihabara going towards Ueno, I was wondering if you had actually not ended up taking the Skyliner instead of the Narita Express, because the Skyliner arrives at Ueno. Yeah. Is that what you...
We did. We took the Skyliner.
Maybe before. How was the whole going out of Narita?
Easy, and you're straight down into the train station. And
because you were asking me, and I was like,
But the train station was bustling. Even at 10:30, 11:15 at night, it was bustling. And there were a lot of people coming in from domestic flights, everybody going home. But you're there and you navigate the, hilariously complicated ticket machines. And we, so I'm deliriously happy and trying to make sure that Megan's not feeling overwhelmed or whatever. And she's very kind of like, go with the flow. Jump on the Skyliner. We actually took it to Nippori Station because that was perfect to connect to the subway to get to within walking distance of our hotel. But it was a breeze, and it was nice to be able to see, the outskirts of Tokyo, and then you get denser and denser and denser, and then you're right in the heart of everything. So it was very easy.
I know that it makes way more sense to land at Haneda if you have a choice. I mean, of course, here Zipair lands at Narita, but I love this because I'm more and more in the city, more and more in the city. Like you said, the density, the height of the buildings. At first, it's like farmland. and then seeing like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
this is the beginning of Tokyo.
Yeah,
and then like,
yeah.
wow, this is Tokyo. I like
You're
it. I
coming
don't know
in through
why.
bridges, and you've got like
Yes.
people walking next to you, and yeah, so it's a great introduction to Tokyo. And then I sort of like, we get onto we'd use the Suicas on our phones, which is so much easier now. You can use your
Oh, that was a question I was about to
Yeah.
ask you, because whilst you were in Japan, or maybe just when you left, they announced that they are, because of supply chain issues, you cannot buy any Suica cards or Passmo cards anymore.
Yep.
So if you have one, and I do, you also had one, because when you came for the first time with me back in the day, you bought one, but you couldn't. I was wondering, how would Megan, if you had been able to buy one for Megan? No, so it's an app, or how
it's built into the Apple Wallet. There are a lot of transit cards that are, well, actually not that many. There's a few.
But you need to register?
No, it's very easy. You just,
Wow.
yeah, you can just sign up and add money to
Money.
it, and you don't
Oh.
even. They have the kind of transit mode for those passes, and you don't even need to unlock your phone or anything. You just
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can do that also here in London. And can you do that on your watch as
Yep.
well? Have you tried?
go
Wow!
straight through. It's very
Love it.
easy, really easy to add value to it. So that was how we got around, and then jump out, and I'm sort of skipping down the street to because I'm just so happy to be here, and literally went straight to the Lawson and got an egg sandwich and a beer, and went to sleep. But it was wonderful to be back in Japan, and even though it was unbelievably hot, it was so hot.
I told you
Yep.
the summer in Tokyo, in Japan in general, but in Tokyo is sweltering hot. It looks like you're in Southeast
Yeah.
Asia. It's
It
like
was-
literally 36, 38 degrees.
Talking to
with
Joseph and a few
85%
other
humidity.
people, it was unprecedented how consistently hot and humid it was. But you get on with it, and we had a great time and enjoyed it.
How did you, before you go to your flight back, did you use mostly the train, of course, to do, because I've seen you were probably in Kyoto, in Osaka, I'm pretty sure, because I know that you've seen Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Joe Allen, who is now in Osaka. So you didn't use any flights to do
No, we went to Hakone for a couple of nights, and then Kyoto, and then Osaka, and all of that was done on the Shinkansen and some regional trains, and that was very easy.
Hakone, when you posted some of your footage of Hakone, because I've done that like when I was living there very early on, so I've never done it again. I was like, oh wow, that reminds me so much.
It's lovely.
It hasn't changed. It has at the same time. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
So guys, it's one of the day trips. I would prefer to do it in 2 days,
would
but
too.
you could do it a day trip from Tokyo. So it's pretty cool. Shinkansen, they announced as well that they are removing the food cards.
Yeah.
So it used to be, that was talking about, again, travel. I used to land in Narita. I would take the Narita Express. And in the Narita Express, there was a lady with a food cart. And I would always take the same thing, the katsu sando, so the sandwich with a kind of roasted pork, and a canned coffee, canned kohi. And that was my staple. And then they removed that service from the Narita Express. So I said, okay, I need to buy that at Narita and then bring it with me. But that service remained on some of the Shinkansens, and now they are announcing they're removing it. And I know that you can do the ekiben, so eki means station, train station, and ben is a bento box, so the meal box, the box meal, whatever. So you can buy at the station. But for me, I love to see the person come with a cart.
Yeah, it's cute.
And you choose and you pay, and now they're removing
Yeah.
it. And I'm becoming this old guy that says, back in the day it was better. But anyway.
I do like the ekiben, and Megan got a kick out. We did it 2 or 3 times, and just the volume and breadth of product, as well as frankly the quality is incredible. So it's hard to beat. So we enjoyed that.
You enjoyed it. Did she enjoy Japan?
Yeah. I think she enjoyed Osaka the most. Well, Hakone, because it was just so otherworldly, but I think she enjoyed Osaka the most. And I do too.
Yeah, Osaka is a fun city.
Yeah, I love it.
Well.
I love it very much. Yeah, we saw Joe twice. It was great. Went to some fun izakayas and ate and drank and got to catch up with him. So it's
perfect, man. It's perfect.
But yeah.
Well, I'm so happy. I'm very obviously jealous, but at the same time, I'm very happy that you went back and that she discovered it. And did you filled your belly with tamago sando from Lawson?
Oh, yeah, I think she said that was one of her favorite discoveries of Japan. And I'm like, see. It's you're addicted. You're physically dependent.
I think last time, was maybe not last time. One of these time, I've done I decided to go for all three. So Family Mart, Lawson, and 7-Eleven, and I tried and I made I think I even made maybe an Instagram story that I must have somewhere in my archives about the differences. And of course, the Lawson is still the best, but they're depending on your taste and what you appreciate in the egg or maybe the surrounding, it's they're all good, but the Lawson is the legendary one.
And because of the strength of the yen or weakness of the yen, Japan feels incredibly cheap at the moment.
Yeah.
And it has a reputation. It's always had a reputation of being a very expensive country. It was such good value, and you really appreciated it.
I mean, you know that because you've been now few times, but the devil's biggest secret is that Tokyo is expensive or Japan is expensive, because if you can go to the small eateries and it's not going, putting the currency aside, it can be still very cheap. So, but it's true that we said that in a few episodes ago, they're raising the price of the Japan Rail Pass. Mm-hmm. There's a few, of course, they have to keep up with inflation. Yeah. So, and by the way, that Japan Rail Pass hadn't been, increased since 1980 or something. So at some point, they had to do it.
It's an inevitability.
But still, man, I'm so happy. Well, anyway, I'll let you probably go. Just one question. How busy did it feel?
It felt pre-COVID. I mean, we went on our first morning. We went to I can't remember the name of the big shrine. One of the big shrines in Tokyo, and we went very early, A, because we were jet lagged, and B, because it was going to be hot. But I wanted to show Megan, it was one of the first places I'd been to in Tokyo on my first journey. And we got...
Yeah, we were together.
Yeah, exactly. And we got there at about 8 a.m. And by the time we left at 9:30, it was full of tourists, just heaving. Yeah. As it always felt like it used to be. The trains were busy. It just felt normal. It felt like pre-COVID. Hakone was
I've
busy.
heard that.
Yeah.
And Kyoto was busy.
Kyoto was busy. Yeah, the markets, like the food market, was full of tourists. Absolutely ram-packed.
Like you said, 2019. I mean, I've heard that the numbers is still 30% lower than 2019. I mean, this is not the latest numbers. Probably they will be updated soon. But yeah.
Well, it's because the Chinese tour licenses have not been...
update. There are.
I saw that.
They're starting. I mean, it's not only for Japan. Chinese couldn't leave in any kind of tour for, I think there were more than 80 countries, whatever, they couldn't go. Yeah. And it's just been now. Yeah. So they will be able to come back to Japan, which will make up for that.
I mean, you go to some of the big shrines in Kyoto, and it was adding on tour groups would make it horrible. Just in terms of the density of people. There were a lot of Korean tourists. That was by far the biggest demographic there.
I'm gonna go back to back in my day.
Yeah.
The old person shouting at clouds, but that I am. But I'm happy to have done Kyoto back in that day when there was very few people. Because Matt, drink water. Was currently in Japan. He's in Kyushu right now, but he was in Kyoto, I think, 2 weeks ago. We just missed each other by a few days, I think. He posted an Instagram story saying there are still temples that are not busy, but you need to go out a little bit of the ones that everybody, they want to do one day in Kyoto, they're going to do the same 4 ones, whatever. And indeed, he was filming, and some of them were were empty, and I know them. Anyway, hi Matt, because he's also listening. Probably don't listen now. Listen when you come back to London. Anyway, go on. So, vending machines you just released. It's really fun, because I also have the same obsession about vending machines. You release an episode on Attaché on your YouTube channel, a mini episode as you call it. This is a very cute vignette that you did.
I am obsessed with him, and I think it's such an.
But we disagree on one thing.
Whoa. Okay.
I don't like Pocari Sweat. I never did.
You're not the only person to have commented that. I think it's
Everybody was trying to convince me that I need to drink this when I was living in Japan, and I drank it, and it's true. I understand the kind of the hydration value of it, and I can drink it. It's not that I hate it or that I dislike the taste. It's not something I do really enjoy, and I know that is the opposite with you. And I was watching this video. I'm like, no. Canned coffee every day of the week. I can do like 1 hour now discussing which kind of coffee is the best and which one, which period of the year. And by the way, you know that, I mean, you didn't say because you went to summer. I don't think you said when you put your cash, like you said, they light up which ones are available in October when they start to turn for the ones that are hot. It blinks blue if it's a cold one. It blinks red if it's a hot one. I love it.
I failed to mention that.
This level of attention to detail in Japan is
very unique, and I was determined to make that little, and my wife was very tolerant and patient. So
was she as well tolerant about, because I can see right now there's two things that strike me watching, and you guys don't watching Alex. First is like there's a new lamp in your background that is probably very Japanese and it's clearly a souvenir, but also what you wear on your head, Tokyo Yakult, which is the baseball team. I'm pretty sure you went to see a baseball game.
We did, and actually, we both agreed that was one of the highlights for us because we're both big baseball fans, and we are both big. We love food, so it was a great experience, and it was on our the anniversary of the day we met. So we scheduled it to be that because the day before was my birthday, and I went and did stuff that I wanted to do. Well, we did stuff that I wanted to do, but it was great. We went to see the Yakult Swallows play in the Meiji Jingu Stadium, which is one of the oldest ballparks in the world, let alone Japan. And unfortunately, they keep talking about tearing it down, which seems like a crime to me. And we had the absolute best time. It was so great.
It's fun, huh?
Oh my God, it was so good. The food options were incredible. The atmosphere was amazing. It was a Wednesday or Thursday night, and it was sellout crowd. The people around us were all really friendly. Just fantastic. Really, really wonderful experience. At the end of the fifth inning, fireworks, because it's firework festival season in Japan, and so just all of the little familiarities and also the things that were completely different and wonderful and unique and surprising. It was great. Definitely a highlight of the trip for both of us.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's so different to watch a baseball game in Japan than it is in the US because that's the other big market. It's and Japanese are actually big fans of it. It's still the number one sport.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not sure,
Easily. I mean, we were thinking about going to a game in Osaka as well, but we couldn't get, it was sold out. They were sold out. So it's a bit, these are weekday games as well. It's a big sport, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I remember I played corporate a little bit, so I was.
Yeah,
they saw this tall guy. Like, okay, this tall guy must know baseball. And I played a little bit with you. Remember, we played softball in. But I know how to run, and that's basically it. And they said, okay, Paul, you're gonna be a pitcher. I'm like, oh my God. And it was like a corporate team, so they play against other companies, and they invited me. I was not part of corporate, but they invited me, and I went all in. I went to a store and I bought Matsui's Yankee outfit. Like that.
That's amazing.
Because I said, you know what? I'm not making a decision. I'm not making a choice of which team I'm supporting. I'm not going to, embarrass myself by saying I'm supporting X team over Y team because, in a corporate environment, I didn't want to have anyone offended. So I took like Matsui, Yankee. Everybody was so happy to see me. So, but they made them think that I was even better. That I sucked, right? And I was probably the worst fucking pitcher they ever saw, and I made them lose the game probably as well. I mean, we lost clearly, and I think it was a big factor in it. And how they were too polite to say so. They're like a good effort. I'm like, yeah, good effort, right? I know that.
That's hilarious.
It's a dark spot in my career. Anyway, let's go back to flying. Because time is flying. So you back to Narita, I guess? Yeah, unless there's other things you want to mention about Japan.
No, it was great. I mean, I could go on for hours and hours about it, but it was great. And I had booked us on ANA from Itami just because it's there and it's closer. And it was actually one of the few flights that went to Narita because we had to get back to Narita to get our Zipair flight to Honolulu.
Oh, so you didn't train that. You actually took a domestic flight.
We took a domestic flight, yeah. And actually, weirdly, well, not weirdly, JAL and ANA and all of the other Japanese airlines are constantly going to Haneda from Itami.
Of course, because that's the city airport, Haneda.
A city airport to a city airport. But JAL and ANA had one flight a day each from Itami to Narita. And that fortunately, the timing worked out perfect. I chose ANA over JAL. JAL, I would have got a little bit of status and points and blah, blah, blah. But the timing wasn't as comfortable. And I'm very glad I made that choice. And I'll tell you why. But the last time I went to Itami was with Greg and Joseph. And I think we were flying up to Sapporo. And it has changed a lot since then. It has been refurbished. What used to be quite a London city type airport with, we don't have a lot here, but we're going to get you out on time attitude, which is by all means good with me. There's this central rotunda after security, but before you get to where all of the gates are, that's now a very quite posh food court.
Oh. Nice.
And so you got a Starbucks, obviously, and a little, Combini that doesn't sell anything Combini-ish. And then all of these very good restaurants, some specializing in dumplings, one specializing in eel, and others in kind of the set meals. And so we went for that, and it was great and cheap and easy. And when you get out to the gates, you're like, oh, it is still quite a oldish airport, low ceilings, the kind of varnished tile floors and all of that. And I'm looking at my watch and looking at my watch and looking at my watch. The plane's there. It's fine. It's a 737-800. And I'm like, we're supposed to leave in 20 minutes and we haven't started boarding. And then I'm like, oh yeah, we're in Japan. Sure enough, right 20 minutes before, everybody on. Sit down, take off, bang on time. No issues whatsoever. They had the same deal with the Wi-Fi and the IFE. They came around and did a drink service. It's only an hour flight up to Narita, but it was comfortable and easy. There's something almost sort of old school about it. It was like flying on United in the 90s, and in the best possible way. It was full service. There was no IFE screens. There was a drop-down screen, and the drop-down screen was playing like golf highlights.
I love it.
It felt so 90s, and
oh wow,
I loved it. It was great. And
wow,
while we were flying, I was sort of flicking through the news and stuff, and there had been a lot of weather developments in Japan, and there was a typhoon coming up from the Pacific, from the south. We'd actually thought about going to Okinawa, and I'm very glad we didn't, because they got absolutely dunked on, and they were evacuating a lot of people out, and the flights from Okinawa, from Naha to mainland, or the bulk of Japan were rammed. As we were coming into Narita, the captain comes on and goes, in 30 seconds, there's going to be turbulence.
What? That was very precise.
Yeah, it was very precise. And I think because we were dodging thunderstorms along with everybody else, cumulonimbus clouds, to get into to Narita. And I'm looking out the windows and I'm seeing these things tower above us going, this is going to... But he's like, in Japanese and then in English, in 30 seconds, there's going to be turbulence. And in 30 seconds, we went into a cloud and there was some juddering. Nothing that I ever would have thought needed but maybe they could see on the weather radar or somebody had said ahead of them.
It's a nice heads up.
It was. I thought, how on brand. We were being so precise. We've joined the queue to land, and we taxi in parallel to our gate area, and then we stop. No, of course, no one.
How long did you have to transfer there? Because I remember that was one of your questions. You were saying, Paul, how long should I need?
4 hours.
How long did you? Oh,
And
okay.
by this point, I had accumulated quite a lot of stuff in Japan. And so we had already packed duffel bags. I knew this was going to happen. So we had checked in bags. I forgot to mention this because it happened to me the last time I was in Itami. You can check in online and then you can go and do the bag drop. They have a row of bag drop machines. There are these beautiful things. You put your bag in and this big door closes in front of it and it weighs it and checks the dimensions. And then you put your bag tag on and you leave. We get up there and the person sort of ushering you to the machine looks at us and goes, where are you going? And I said, well, we're going to Narita, but she's like, is that your final destination? And I said, kind of. We have to collect our bags and then recheck in because we're going on Zip to Honolulu. She's like, oh, I might be able to check you all the way through your bags.
Way.
And I'm like, I bet you can't. Because how could you? How could you possibly? And I'm not saying this, I'm thinking this. I'm like, no, it's okay. Because we were first in the queue and I could see the queue over by the full service check-in was long and slow. And I thought, this different carrier, different reservation, unless there's some Japanese magic happening that I hadn't learned about. But I'm like, hey, you know what? That would be flipping great because I wouldn't need to go landside. Give it a whirl. Go over to the check-in desk and I explain, hey, we're going to all the way. She's like, oh, okay, let me just, do you have your ticket, your boarding pass for your next flight? Yeah, sure. No, here it is. She's taking it. She's like, tap, 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 tap. And I'm like, wow, maybe she's actually going to be able to do this. Out come the bag tags. She's like, I couldn't because it's on a different carrier and a different reservation. I'm like, oh, so just like I said. And the same...
it happened to me once. Dubai was able to forward, whatever. I was able to do from Emirates to Cathay Pacific. And they said, fine, maybe because it was Dubai.
I think anyway, because a lot of these airlines have interline baggage agreements that it does actually work. Yeah, but course, I would have been amazed if JAL and ANA had... reciprocal agreements, and of course they didn't. So we go through anyway. We had 4 hours. We left on time, and I thought, okay, or maybe like 3.5. And I thought in 3.5 hours we have to collect our luggage, go through, check in at Zipair, and drop our bags off. Go through security, go through outbound immigration, and I'm like that feels like enough. Same terminal.
Yeah.
So we land and we stop on the taxiway. No one gets up. Of course, they don't get up.
Mm-hmm.
And we wait and we wait and we wait and we wait and we wait. Engine shut down. I'm like, oh, God.
Uh-oh.
Captain comes on and says, there's a thunderstorm passing overhead. And so the plane that's on our gate isn't able to taxi back. So we just need to wait until wait. Comes on and says they've shut the whole airport down because it's dangerous for the ground personnel to be on the so the whole airport is shut down. And I'm thinking, first of all, completely understand. You can't put these people's lives at risk. There's lightning.
Happened to me a few times in Japan in airports when the typhoon season.
They shut it all down. And he said, I'll know more in half an hour. And we've already been on the ground for half an hour. And I'm like, shit. Thinking, we had all this time. We only had two nights in Hawaii. Thinking, oh man, this is going to be, we wait. And I'm on flight radar and I'm on live ATC and I'm watching all of these planes land and stack, and they were just stacking us all up. And, it was neat for me because in a way I like, oh, there's the ANA A380 with the sea turtle on it. And that's cool. That novelty wore off pretty quickly. And I'm listening to the various frequencies, trying to get a sense of, what was happening. And eventually the engine spooled up and I could hear them starting to release airplanes to taxi for takeoff. They were taking off planes that had already left the gate and pushed back. They were allowing to take off. So I knew that, and you could see on our side of the airplane, blue skies, and then darkness on the other side. Eventually, they released us, and we went in, and there were a lot of. But of course, they had handled everything. Everybody had been rebooked that was going to miss their connection. Everybody, they had people waiting at the gate at the threshold of the jet bridge, saying, "If you're on this flight, come with me. If you're on that flight, go over here." We didn't have that, of course, because we were on unconnected reservations. So we walked speedily to the baggage claim. Our bags came out quickly and easily, and they were all stacked up nicely. Grabbed them, went down to Zip, and
so it was the same terminal.
It was the same terminal. Yes, it was the same. You walk a little bit around, and then you are up into the departures area. So terminal.
Good. So you didn't have to switch terminals,
which is again
because you remember you were asking me the question about the bus, because there's a bus that goes like clockwise, whatever.
Which would have been shut down, and the queues for that would have been insane if we had tried to do that. And that's another reason why I chose ANA, because they were.
I was about to say, because JAL, you would have ended up in the other, maybe.
Yes. Yeah, no, it would have, because I had looked at the bus diagrams that you had recommended, and it wasn't difficult or long, but it would have been another step. And at that point, we didn't have much time for another step. So that's another reason why I chose. You come into the big hall at Narita, eventually found the Zip check-in desk, and we got into the queue to check in, and this woman says, "No, come, we can do it on the kiosk, and then you just go around and drop your bag off." I was like, brilliant, I don't wait in this queue, it's a lot of people. And she tried. Oh, no, it's just this machine, don't worry. And she's sort of pressing buttons and looking around and not actually looking at the screen. I'm like, oh, you didn't see the error message. It just came up. It didn't work on this one. Try again. Meanwhile, a person gets in the queue, person gets in the queue, person gets in the queue, she's like, oh, no, sorry, it didn't work. You're going to have to get in the queue. I'm like, oh. And it was, Paul, without exaggeration, easily the slowest check-in process I have ever experienced in my life. It took, and I was already a little on edge because I was looking at the time. I'm like, we're all in check-in. They're not going to leave without us. We're here. But I had realized that we were able to get into the ANA lounge because with my Amex, I was like looking forward to just resting for a little bit. And slow and slow and slow, because they were being unbelievably rigorous on bags. And so people were then having to repack all of their bags and then try and figure out. And then it was like, oh, I didn't know. I can't. And they're like, they're not making them leave. And then they're making it. And so my carry-on was overweight. So they're like, you have to check it in. I'm like, can I just pay the $55? And like, nope. You got to, unless you booked it online, you got to pay. Or you got to check it in.
You get... How over the limit were you?
Enough for them to go, at maybe 1.5 kilos.
Oh, come on. That's frustrating.
But the flight was completely full. 100.
So did you have to check in?
I checked, which I didn't really care about. It was one less thing to worry about.
Yeah, well, fine.
And I had already anticipated this might happen, so I had moved anything out of it that I couldn't bring on, like batteries or anything like that.
Yeah.
You go through... It took about an hour to get through all of this, and God. I'm like, well, we get maybe 45 minutes in the lounge, and so you go through security, easy. And then the immigration, like I mentioned, they had machines, and I wasn't thinking, and I was tired, and I used my U.S. passport on it because I was going to the U.S. and I didn't want it to go, oh, you don't have an ESTA or whatever they had. I need.
Yeah.
And it was like, and this elderly Japanese woman who was working on it, she's like, try again. And I was like, and I pulled out my British passport, and she looked at me like I was a friggin' idiot. She's like, is that the passport you came in on? I'm like, this one is. She's like, use that one. Of course, it goes straight through customs, no problem. It was cute. It was. I'm sure you remember this, but it's the ANA lounge that's underground. So yes. The smaller of we could have gone to the big one with the view, but it was on clear across the other side. This one was literally just below our gate, and so we went there. And they have a food ordering system where you can order things, they'll be prepared for you. Your little buzzer goes off, and then you're delivered. They've got the wonderful beer pouring machines where you set your glass and it pours it at the right angle.
This is my favorite feature.
Robot,
Yes,
the beer robot.
Angle. And to me, it's the goodbye to Japan.
Yeah.
I always take the beer and I look at it. I must have like 20 million videos on my phone because I'm going to film it every single time, pouring the beer slowly with the angle and pouring the back, the glass back, like vertically, like every single
It was perfect. And it was a fitting end to the trip. And we had 45 minutes in there and we go to the gate and it's a lot more chaotic than it was in San Francisco because there's twice as many people for starters. But
but chaotic usually is not very Japanese.
It was chaotic, and it was, how I said in San Francisco, it was, row X to Y, and now row X to Y, and now row X to Y. It was rows 1 to 9, rows 50 and up.
Oh,
so the back of the plane.
They were trying to fill both ends, whatever.
Now everybody else, go. And you get on board, and the flight was absolutely rammed. It was a red eye, short of 7 hours to Honolulu because you're in the middle of the Pacific. We had a lovely lady sitting next to us. She was from Korea, and she's just transiting through Narita to Honolulu. And we had ordered a meal this time, just out of curiosity. I was like, we ordered the spicy beef rice or something, and it appeared, and it was much faster actually than on the San Francisco flight. So,
good.
That was great. And then you could that service, they turned on the ordering much faster. There was a lot more crew on board. It felt like because they had more people.
I have an inkling that you did the right decision to order the meal on that flight because the catering is done in Japan as well.
So you're absolutely right because the breadth of options available on that flight was significantly broader than it was out of San Francisco. So it was fun. The food was nice. It was more than edible, and we sort of snoozed until landing in Honolulu. And I'm very, very glad that we took that flight because it was the earliest flight to leave Japan for Honolulu. And I'm looking over my shoulder, not literally, metaphorically, on flight radar, and the queue of airplanes coming from Japan to Honolulu was staggering. From Fukuoka, like 5 flights from Tokyo, from
Osaka,
Nagoya, from Osaka, and then there was like 5 or 6 flights from Seoul, all converging, and we were leading the pack. And I thought, man, because we had a reasonably tight connection in Honolulu to get to Kauai on Hawaiian Airlines, I thought if we get stuck behind a 2 380s from Japan, we are boned. And it was, because you've got Wi-Fi, I'm kind of watching the planes, and we're dodging thunderstorms to get out of Japanese airspace. And it was actually a pretty smooth flight, except for like an hour of turbulence. But if we had not been at the front of that queue, it's not the reason I picked it. I picked it because it was the cheapest. But serendipity meant that. Oof,
so the price was also a very good price.
Even with all of those add-ons, it was extremely competitive compared to the full-service carriers.
Good.
The timing was great. I would have loved to have tried the 380, but it was like 3 or 4 times the price.
Oh, with the ANA.
So it was just
it's very expensive.
And it was a one-way flight, and they don't do that. And of course, with Zip you can. So that was great. And of course, we land in Honolulu, and you land, and there's like these F-35s and reinforced F-35s or F-20s. Someone will correct me. In these reinforced bunker hangars, and you taxi and off. Of course, immigration hall was empty because we were the first flight of the day. Yeah, awesome. We had plenty of time because the flight ended up being early.
So you had to walk outdoors?
Yeah. Well, you get down and you collect your bags, and then to get from arrivals.
No, meaning you had a bridge.
No, we had a jet bridge. Yep.
Okay.
It's a surprisingly big airport because of the amount of airplanes that come into it. Big from all over the world is staggering.
Course,
absolutely staggering. And it felt like an American airport. So dated.
But you had the luck, as you said, to be alone, so everything was very quick.
And of course, now with the
luggage,
American, because we both have American passports, there was no one in the queue ahead of us. Straight through.
Good.
Bags took a minute to come through. Went over to the inter-island terminal.
Mm-hmm.
Dropped the bags using a bag. We'd already checked in, so simple bag drop system, really, really easy. You put your own bag tag on it. Up into this hilarious shared lounge, which at that point we were sort of delirious with exhaustion, and it was very, amusingly laid out, and it was like being in the lobby of a Holiday Inn.
Oh my!
Southern California, with all of the same kind of coffee machine and cereals available if you wanted them. It was exactly what we needed. And then you go out into this. There's not much there in the inter-island terminal, and there's a 717, which I don't think I had ever flown on before.
You've flown one?
Yeah, because
I don't think
that's
I have.
what the Hawaiian Airlines inter-island fleet is exclusively made up of. Is these 717 workhorses, and it comes like basically power sliding around the corner and floors it into the gate because they're just like, let's go, everybody, come on. It's like, man, that plane is hauling ass into the gate. They do a crew swap, very quick crew swap. We all get on board. We have an exit row. It's all incredibly laid back. We had flown Hawaiian Airlines before 2 years ago from Oakland to Lahui, and that was on a brand new A321. So it was a lot more sort of polished. This was a beat up commuter bus, and it was great. We had our exit row, and I don't want to throw Hawaiian Airlines under the bus, but there was no scrutiny over what was on the floor in front of us on any of the exit rows. They're like, yep, that's fine. Yeah, okay.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. And we taxi out. They're like, hey, everybody, it's short flight to Honolulu. We're going to go up and then we're going to go down. And it was like 21 minutes.
Wow.
And you taxi out to the runway at 65 miles an hour and turn and burn up hard bank to the right. You don't go, I think we might have been on maybe 15,000 feet at most.
Yeah, you don't have time. Yeah.
You just slam it down in Lahui, an airport that Megan and I were both familiar with, and taxi, get out, and the bags were waiting for us in the outdoor baggage handling area. We so that was kind of great. That was kind of fun.
That's lovely.
And I may have been on a Mad Dog before, but I'm almost certain I had never been on a 717. It's a tight little airplane.
Yeah, I don't think I have. I need to check, but I don't think Mad Dog I have, but not the 717. Pretty sure I've not. And so you had your small holiday. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to ask you on record to tell us about the holiday, but then did you took the same 717 to come back?
No, we wanted to fly because we would have a night stop in California.
Guys, my cat is howling behind the door. I will not let her in, but it might bleed over the sound, so just that
It'll be a nice break from hearing my voice for 2 hours.
It's not someone being like crucified or being tortured behind me. I live in a normal, proper people house. Sorry, go ahead. So
we were both flying back to the UK the following day. Megan had come in on Virgin, and because she had come much later than me, and the prices were better.
Yep.
And I had obviously come in on BA, and I was flying on BA out of San Francisco, and she was flying on Virgin out of San Francisco. But
so you still had to connect to San Francisco?
No, we decided to, because of the timings, we wanted a bit more time in Hawaii, so we said we'll take a flight that gets into California at about 10 p.m. into San Jose. We'll just stay at the airport, a hotel, and then we'll zip up to San Francisco the next day to connect to our respective flights. It was just easier way of doing it than...
Yeah, but from where? From which airport in
Lahui, which is on Kauai,
okay.
Which is where we flew into. So
so you didn't have
to go back, and that was by design. And there was the options, I think, were a United red eye, which I dismissed immediately, a Alaska flight to San Francisco, or a Southwest flight to San Jose. I think a Hawaiian Airlines flight to Oakland. But Southwest give you 2 free checked bags.
There you go.
And we could have done 2 bags each and just been easy with our carry-on. I think that's what we ended up doing. Alaska, it was like $50 a bag, pay for your seat. Obviously, Southwest has different protocol. Anyway, opted for Southwest. Very, very, very full flight. I won't get into the details of Lihue Airport because we're short on time. But
No, we're not short on time. Did you like it, by the way? I'm very curious. Was it one of these
it's a small, quote unquote, tropical airport. Very little
That's
there. The terminal area is tiny. It's got a little cafe that gouges you on price. It's got a little shop that gouges you on price.
Typical.
You're in a holding pen because you go through agricultural screening to go back to the mainland. So once you're through with your bags, you can't take them out again. So you're in this pen. And while we were in the pen, there was this guy, teenager, making all kinds of noise. I thought, dude, settle down. Comes next to us. I'm like, ooh, my friend, you stink of booze. He was like, he was sweet and he was talking to people, but every now and then he would sort of yell and he would pass out, and his companion, who was younger than he was, would sort of elbow him and he would kind of yell at her. And I thought, my friend, you are not going anywhere. And if you are coming on this flight, that's bad news, because if you kick off and we're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, what the hell are we going to do?
Yeah.
And we board. It's a completely full flight. Sit down, and I'm looking. We were in the A group for boarding because Southwest does this, no assigned seats, and you are in boarding groups, and then you have a specific point number in the queue, and you all queue up. I know I'm 24. What number are you? Okay, well, you go behind me, and I'll go here, and you get on, and you pick whatever seat's available. And we got on. I think we were A 21 and 22. We get on. We pick a seat halfway down, and I'm watching the door, waiting. I'm like, is this kid going to get on? And no, he sure enough did not get on. And everybody around us was like, there's no freaking way. There is no way that he could have gone on. It would have been dangerous, frankly, if he got on.
Safety issue.
Yeah.
And for himself, by the way.
For himself, because if he had run into an issue, and you do think about that when you're in a twin engine small airplane, there's no diversion points. And I was reading up out of curiosity on ETOPS and all of that and how it all works. It's really a very fascinating and interesting and rigorous, by the way, certification process. And it was a 737 MAX 8, new-ish, maybe 12 months old. And Southwest have free, blazing fast Wi-Fi for everybody, like consistently really, really fast. They also have 7 or 8 channels of, no, more than that, maybe 25 channels of live TV, or even over the Pacific, as well as a huge library of TV shows and movies, all available for free. You paid $8 for additional sort of more robust Wi-Fi, and then free drinks for everybody, sodas. We both wanted a sort of champagne or sparkling wine to kind of toast a successful trip, but they didn't charge us for it. Like, 2 snack runs, including a snack box that was all free, all included. And a very pleasant flight. Megan was sort of dozing. I was listening to air traffic control and just spacing out and making notes for them.
ATC is going to be by entertainment of choice.
It kind of is. I find it. I'll talk about that briefly on the way.
I know you, but you have a choice between Fast and Furious and ATC.
It's interesting hearing everybody talk. But here was my takeaway from that. It was a very good flight. I cannot fully trust the MAX.
Oh wow!
That
you still have something in your head.
There's something in my head that makes me think.
Wow.
It is we've waxed lyrical about the 747 for years, but specifically more when it was retired finally, or the last plane rolled. You just sit in that airplane and you feel a sense of comfort and calm and trust in that airplane at home. Yeah. And I felt that with the 737 prior. I feel it with the A320. You're like, this is such a workhorse of an airplane. But there's something about the Max 8 or the Max where I'm like, I don't trust you as an airplane. I know that you are an engineering marvel, but I don't trust you. There's something at the back of my head. I was like, I'm not expecting anything to go wrong. I know that there are thousands of flights of these airplanes a day and nothing has happened.
No, we know. And we know that it's been, under the microscope for long time after the accidents that have happened. So we know all that, but wow.
There's
human psychology. We have these things that stay with us, right?
It was really interesting. There was something about it that just didn't feel like basically any other Boeing airplane has ever made me feel, or Airbus. I mean, it's nothing to do with the manufacturers. So it was interesting to sort of analyze that a little bit while I was flying. Going, what is that? But of course, it was an uneventful flight. I am a big fan of Southwest.
I was about to ask you, how did you like
if you pick the right seat, i.e. not something towards the front or rear of the fuselage or the plane where the fuselage tapers in and then it feels really cramped. It's just the right balance of economy and frills and no frills. And you don't really have the option to pay for a lot of extras because there aren't any. But they took care of you. Like, because it's a 5-hour flight, they can't just say you get a bag of pretzels and a soda. They give you this whole snack box, and it was more than enough. And it was on time, and it was easy, and it was good. And I just liked them. Arriving in San Jose was easy. We spent the night at one of the airport hotels and then zipped over to San Francisco. Megan's flight left. Okay.
Because that I know the story.
Okay, everybody, strap in. Because the last 10 minutes are going to be ranty. Actually, I'll just tell the freaking story.
We can do 15. We don't have to do only 10. Go ahead.
I got a notification that my flight was delayed. I'm like, oh my God, really? No way.
BA, why?
What a freaking surprise.
Belated Airlines.
Belated, I loved that. That made me laugh. So Megan's flight was due to leave at 5, and my flight that I was booked on was due to leave at 7, and then she was going to make her way from Terminal 3 to Terminal 5 to meet me. I was taking all of the bags, and by the time that
you're talking
at Heathrow,
in London,
by the time she'd gone through immigration, got down to the Heathrow Express, got on, found blah blah blah, it would have worked out fine. She would have maybe had to wait around half an hour or so, and that delay comes in. I'm like, that's just going to make it so she's got to sit and sit and sit. And I was like, well, there's a earlier BA flight that leaves at 4. And I went online to see if I could change. And of course, because I had a multi-city itinerary, London, San Jose, San Francisco, London, can't change it online.
Can't change. I'm trying right now to change something with BA. I need to call them.
So I was like, well, they're still selling it. I can see on Expert Flyer that it's got more than 9 seats in economy. I'm going to call. So I call and I get the silver call center in India. And I explain the situation. And the guy's like, okay, so you want to change to the earlier flight? And I said, yeah, because this flight is an hour late and it's really going to screw up my plans. And he's like, okay, let me put you on hold for 2 minutes. Puts me on hold for 10 minutes, comes back and said, it's actually 58 minutes late. And the cutoff for involuntary changes, meaning you won't have to pay a fee or fare difference, is 60 minutes. So it's going to have to be a voluntary change. And I'm like, okay, dude, he's like, there's no fare difference. That's the good news. Let me go away and make this change for you. So you just got to pay the change fee, which is like $100 or whatever.
Yep.
And so I wait, and he comes back. He's like, I'm really sorry. Can you just wait? He comes back. He's like, look, man, you've been a loyal customer, so this is now going to be an involuntary change. I've made it an involuntary change because you've been a customer of ours for a long time. So, and I was like, man, thank you very much. And he's like, this is a really complicated thing. So you just please give me like 15 minutes. Goes away. 30 minutes later, comes back. He's like, all right, It's not letting me do the change.
Oh my God.
Give me a second. He puts me on hold. He's like, I brute forced it. You should have your ticket. Can you check your email for me? And sure enough, I had my ticket. Nice. And he's like, I was not going to fail on this because I told you I could do it. And I really appreciate it. So I got it. And then we get in an Uber to go, excuse me, from San Jose airport to San Francisco. And on the way, notification that my flight is delayed. And so now Megan and I are leaving at exactly the same time-ish, and that's fine. That's fine. So she had no checked bags. I had the checked bags. Go to BA, the BA check-in. They check me in, bam, bam, like super quick. Priority bags on. There's no one in the check-in, and she says, "Look, the flight's full." I'm like, "Do you have any window seats?" And she says, "No, I'm sorry, but ask at check-in. Maybe they'll be able to sort you out." And I said, "Well, it is what it is. It means that Megan doesn't have to wait. I have an aisle seat. It'll be fine. Whatever." We go back to our China Airlines lounge because I can't take her into the BA lounge because she's not on BA. And it turns out that my delay is creeping a little bit more and more and more. So we enjoy the China Airlines lounge. And I say, I need to go and talk to the gate agents, but I'm going to go into the BA lounge and do that because they have a dedicated agent and they board from the lounge at San Francisco. And she was ready to go and get on her flight too. So we said our goodbyes. I go up to the lady at the lounge counter and I say, "Hi," and I'm like, "You don't have any window seats, do you?" She's like, "I do." I'm like, "Brilliant." She's like,
"Oh,
and it's the exit row." I'm like,
"No way."
Freaking jackpot. She's like, "Do you want it?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I do want it. Please. Thank you very much." And so she puts me in the exit row, window seat. I'm like, brilliant. I'm so glad I did that. Went into the San Francisco BA lounge, which was very busy because they had these two flights converging because one was delayed and they were really coming in together.
Were they both Dreamliners?
No, one was a 380. And actually the later flight was a 380.
The one you were supposed to be on was
I was looking forward to being back on a 380, but oh well.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
My flight was a 777-300, which I hadn't been on in a while. Everybody in the lounge, all of the staff were so frigging nice. They're all third party.
Yeah, of course.
But a lot of the crew were speaking Cantonese. So I busted out my elementary Cantonese. And of course, then I was a grandson from then on. Like, eat this. Let me get you.
You need to eat more food.
Let me bring you He's like, "I'm going to give it to you before I put it out because I want you to have the fresh one." And they were so kind and so sweet this whole time. And there was a little bit of a creeping delay on the ground. They were just ironing something out on board. Eventually, we board straight from the lounge. Group 1. I was in Group 2. But it turns out that by the time that we had started Group 1 and Group 2, they were already at Group 5 in the terminal. So there was this convergence and then of families and passengers and gold card holders and first class passengers all meeting at this very narrow point on the jet bridge and then going down and getting on board. And I take my seat and miraculously the seat between me and the chap on the aisle remained empty the whole flight.
No way.
And the triples.
Perfect.
I had forgotten how much I like that airplane. It's a good airplane. It's comfortable and quiet, but it's got that sturdiness of the kind of the 777-200 and the 747. It has the new IFE system. Is it Thales? I think it's Thales. Yeah. Is it Thales or Panasonic?
I think it is. Not sure.
Really, really good interface. Really deep content selection, of which I watched none, but I was impressed by how much they had. The flight attendant, and it kind of comes full circle in this conversation, sitting across from us for takeoff and landing, was an older lady, incredibly experienced, and we started chatting, and she was really nice, but very by the book. As soon she's like, "In a minute, we're going to taxi onto the runway, and you're going to hear 2 dings, and I cannot talk to you after that." She's like, I just want you to know that. I don't want you to think I'm being rude, but I'm not allowed to. Until they release us, I can't say anything to you, and I'm sorry. But other than that, she was like bubbly. We were talking and trading tips.
I love that. The two dings.
So it's like basically cabin crew, it's our turn to take off.
Of course. No, I get that, but I mean, I love it sounds very ominous the way.
And then she just went robotic. But it was funny because I was looking, and Megan and I were WhatsApping the whole time. And I'm like, who's gonna go? Who's gonna get there first? Who's gonna get to London first? Exactly. And who's gonna push back first? I'm like, we push back first. And I sent her a picture of her plane having just put back. And as luck would have it, we taxi across the ones and over to the 28s in San Francisco, one behind the other. And I'm in front on a BA flight, and then I could see her Virgin flight, and I was telling the crew, the cabin crew member and the guy next to me, like, here's the situation. We're racing back to London, and then of course throughout the flight they're like, so how are we doing? And we take off out of San Francisco. We hit gnarly wake turbulence from a 380 that had taken off before us to the Emirates flight.
Oh,
really bad. Like for that second, this very violent wake turbulence. And we're up and off. And it was really interesting because almost immediately after takeoff, as in me and Megan, our paths diverged significantly.
Yeah, I was tracking you because, of course, you told me about that. You were racing, so I'm like, I'm going to track you both. And indeed.
It was so interesting. Like we immediately started turning north, and they went very just on an easterly path. And I thought, okay, well, this is really interesting. And I couldn't sleep, and I was listening to air traffic control, and I became slightly obsessed with the kind of passing of the airplanes over, and I could only pick up certain frequencies reliably on the Wi-Fi on live ATC. And we're going up north, and we're hitting pockets of turbulence and stuff. And we get to Canada, just on the border, and the one I could reliably pick up was Waterloo. So I think it was Waterloo, but it was basically Toronto area control. So, but not what you're handed off of when you're basically at altitude.
Yep.
And it was so calm and casual and colloquial that I was just enchanted by this back and forth. And there was a lot of storm activity. So you had people asking for ride reports. You had pilots saying, hey, can I go here? Can I go there? And it was all just sort of, yep, no problem. Have fun. And there was one, like, it was a Canadian, I think it was Rouge, like, hey, any news about 36,000 feet? And they're like, well, you're going to have chop for the next 90 miles, but if you want to give it a whirl, you're welcome to. And the pilot's like, yeah, we're pretty bored up here, so we're going to give it a shot. And you could hear the controller laughing. And he said, all right, cleared the 3, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, okay, well, we're going. At this point, Megan is messaging me going, we are in severe turbulence. The flight crew have been sat down. We've been in this for an hour. She wasn't worried. Oh. She's like, are you in the same thing? And I was like, we've had smooth sailing the whole way.
Better chance of route.
And so we were about 600 or 700 miles north of them at this point. But we had obviously been assigned the same transatlantic path because we converged pretty much at the same point. And I was completely kind of entranced by all of this ATC stuff. So I was like looking at all of the maps of who controls what and what frequency I should. And then you come over to the high frequency transoceanic ones. And listening to them is like listening to like something from the International Space Station. There's just this noise. There's this otherworldly high frequency noise, and you can hear faint voices because obviously the people are picking them up in Shannon and in northeastern Canada, but they're picking up airplanes in the middle of the Atlantic, and so it's so faint and almost creepy and ominous. At that point, I was like, "Screw this! I'm going to go to sleep." But watching our flight paths, there was a fairly significant jet stream that we crossed over this. So there was a little bit of bumps, but Megan and I converged. I think they might have been a slightly more southern track, but we ended up quite close together over Ireland. As soon as we left the Irish coast, we tracked south towards London. They went towards Manchester and Liverpool, and then went down. Mm-hmm. And I think I landed 15 minutes before her. And of course, the flight crew were delighted by that. And my seatmate was, yes. And you sent me a little gold medal emoji.
Yes, I did.
But it was really, it was fascinating to me because I thought, like, what were the choices made there? Why were those choices made? Who made those choices? At what point were those choices agreed upon? I'll never know the answers unless we get somebody in flight planning involved. But I just thought that it was, we're not talking like small deviations, thousands of miles, and initial flight plans were completely different. So it was really interesting to me. I'd like to stop talking now. I will add one.
No, because I wanted, you were landing to Heathrow.
We had the rest of that was easy. We came into the B gates.
Good.
There was a brief delay, but the gate was available, which is always, you don't hold your breath. Deplaned really easily and through, and bags were there as and when they should have been. Megan met me. I was able to go and get her a soda or something and some stuff for the road, and it was very, very, very easy. So while my flight was delayed, the 380 flight ended up being about 3.5 hours delayed in the end.
Oh wow!
So I was glad I made that choice, and I was very much appreciated the chap in the call center who helped me. The footnote to this story is that the kids flew back about 4 or 5 days after me from San Jose with their mother. Mm-hmm. And they were delayed for 3 hours. Yeah. And it was a creeping delay.
Yeah, that's a trend, right?
It was a creeping delay. There was the plane left left London late to get into San Jose. And it was late. And it's even...
Is it London? Is it Heathrow?
Well, no, because then there was a mechanical issue on the ground in San Jose, and that was creeping and creeping and creeping. And it's way harder when it's late. And the flight didn't end up leaving till nearly 11 o'clock at night. I was supposed to leave at 8. And they landed 2 hours and 50 minutes late, which means it's ineligible for compensation.
Oh, God.
And the report back from that flight was very, very different in terms of how the crew were. But there's something...
Like in a negative way? Or
not good at all. I won't get into the specifics, but it wasn't good. And I at BA clearly have some operational issues that they need to sort out. You can bring back the customer service culture, but if you can't ship a plane on time and you're canceling flights, you go on Flyer Talk, the cancellation rate is crazy at the moment. So I've completely dominated this episode, and I apologize. You guys are very weird.
No, but that was the point.
At this point.
No, we wanted that. I mean, honestly, I'm going to ask, what was if you had, between all the flights that you've done, is there one that was a highlight?
I think the first Zipair flight, because it was such a novelty. It was such a new experience. It was just rare that you get to fly on a brand new airline. And that was fun. I think that, that for me was the highlight.
Would you fly them again?
100%. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I don't imagine that. I think they're going to be a Pacific-oriented airline. I don't imagine they're going to come.
No.
Especially not until...
Yeah. They're not going to come to Europe. No. There's no way. The economics, I don't think they stuck up. Right.
But I think I was impressed by them. I would absolutely fly them again.
And what about Narita? What are your thoughts? Because you mostly have done Haneda. I mean, it's not the first time you've been to Narita.
I went once when I was 15 years old for a layover.
Yeah, that's what you told me. I remember. Yeah.
I have very little except going to the Jowl Lounge with my dad and me, and they had a PC connected to the internet, which was this wild new idea. And they had a person whose job it was to sit there and help you get onto this crazy thing. She didn't speak English, I didn't speak Japanese, but we took a selfie using the kind of dot matrix camera that the thing had, which I held on to for years because she was cute. But it was, that's it. I liked, I like Narita very much. I didn't get to spend a whole lot of time there, but it's so well connected. And of course it's, you get all your little bits of paper when you get onto a flight in Japan, and it's not nearly as well appointed as Haneda, and it feels much more tired. Yeah. They had one Combini, which was like a walk through 7-Eleven. You join the queue and you walk through and you get the bits and pieces, and then you eventually get up to the checkout desk.
Yeah, I don't remember which terminal is better than the other. To be honest, I've done both 1 and 2. I've never done 3. Anyway, it doesn't. I'm looking forward to go back.
Yeah, I'm already itching.
I don't know yet. Okay, shout out to Camille. I saw him last night. He's flying JAL. He was asking me, Paul, do you think JAL is a good airline? I'm like, what are you talking about? Is JAL a good airline? Guys, China's a good airline. I think we're gonna cap it off. I'm gonna say one more thing, because you said how JAL was innovative about having that lounge. That lounge is great to this day. I don't think they have that pasokon with the internet anymore, and I wish, because
that's funny.
They've introduced. And I'll let you guys with that thought, and you tell us if you would like to do that. They've just introduced, JAL, the anywhere. So you can rent clothes to go to Japan. So instead of having to fly with your luggage, even if it's just like a carry-on luggage like Alex did to Zipair, JAL has just started it. You can rent clothes. It depends. So you can ask for, let's say you stay 2 weeks. Of course, depends of your gender. And then you opt for the kind of clothing you want. And I think I didn't try it out because I didn't have the time before the recording of this episode. But I think they say for like jeans, a hoodie, and a down jacket, which would be for like, I think 6 days. I think that's 70 quid. So it's basically 7,000 yen. So that's no more 70 quid, by the way, because I have old currency exchange in my 50. Head. Or the summer for 5 tops, 3 bottoms that include a linen shirt, trousers, and ankle length skirt. That's for a woman. That would be $35. And then, so basically, you do all this.
It's a good idea.
And he waits for you, and you don't have to. And they're doing that for 13 months as a trial to want to see if people would do that. I'm not sure. Would you?
Probably not.
Same. However,
I like it. It's a good idea. It's not for me, but I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I have like a little thing in my head. I want to try it out. Change the color scheme, the formality, the season, of course, the size and everything. I'm like, and you can do that like a month in advance or whatever. Yeah, guys, would you do that? That's what we will leave you on with the end credits. At the same time, we're gonna record. I don't know. I'm leaving in September. I have trips. You do as well?
I do. Guess where I'm going?
Tell us.
Berlin.
Brandenburg.
So I will experience the airport.
Wow. Okay, that will be an episode as well. So we have, I'll be in Europe as well. I'll probably do, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to do at some point an Italian episode, because I would have done the trips that I've done in the summer, plus more that are coming. And for some reason, all the airports starts with the letter B. So it's going to be a B Italian episode, and then we'll do the B or Berlin, Brandenburg. That took like 157 years to get built and opened. Guys, no, not guys. Alex, thank you so much, because that was...
Thanks for enduring me.
No, I loved it. And I'm sure everybody did. Guys, see you in the next one. I don't know where that is.
Safe travels, guys.
Happy flying.